So this is my rebuild of a 5-inch drone. I've cut out a new frame after breaking the arm off the other one. In fact, here's the remains of the other one to compare. One thing you can see is the camera shattered. It had a little bit of softening under it, but it was fairly hard mounted. For this one, I've soft mounted it a bit. It's got a couple of 1mm polycarbonate arms, and then right for the camera itself has got a couple of little neoprene donuts or whatever between the screw and the frame to give a bit of dampening. I'm not sure if it's done much good in that regard, but the idea is it's more likely to bounce off and disintegrate in a crash. What else have I done? I've repositioned the GPS so it's got a clearer view of the sky. Seems to be all right. And over here at the back of it, you can see I've got the old Eachine VTX02. This one I've put a circular polarized antenna on it, and I've wired it to another piece of polycarb so it's supported, plus there's some heat shrink on the bottom because these UFL connectors tend to disconnect with any kind of weight on the end. The other thing beside it is the beeper. So once you disconnect the battery with the beeper, the main battery, the battery that's integrated with the beeper will start to beep loudly after a while. So you want to be able to get them very easily to press the little button to stop it beeping. So so every time I make a change, I think of things to improve it. So this one's all set up for flight, and I'll show you some flight video in a moment. The other thing I thought is, rather than a fancy little box for the battery, I've just wrapped it in foam, and I've got a new GoPro cover that'll slot into that. So I'll show you the first analog flight where I didn't bother to put a GoPro on it, to give you an idea of how it goes. I'm pretty pleased with it, really. So here we go. So for this first flight, I was flying with 3S batteries rather than 4S, and with no GoPro on top. It was just a shakedown cruise to see how it felt, and also I'm using the props. I think I get a bit more lift with the bullnose green props. By the way, if you're wondering about the outrageous colour, back in the day before I had beepers on drones, that was how I'd try and find them when they inevitably came down unexpectedly. So it's just a hangover from that. They don't look as cool as black or transparent, but they do the job. So right from the go-get, I was very happy with how it went. Had a little bit of fun with the editor. The FPV camera is a JB Edition Runcam Phoenix, and it had a fairly severe fisheye. So I straightened it out. Of course, when I straighten out the horizon on the FPV footage, the overlay gets distorted, but I quite like it. It's a sort of a wraparound cavern look. Still a bit of sparkle in the video. I remembered Joshua Bardwell saying when he came out with this, his interest at the time with analog was to get clear edge definition, and if it was a bit sparkly as a trade-off, that was acceptable. And I must admit, it's quite pleasant to fly with. So sweeping by at low level, feeling very, very connected with it. So it'll be very interesting to see if the handling's affected by putting a GoPro on the top. I doubt it, but I'm yet to find out. Also, this flight was pretty easy on the battery. So I'm flying over the same terrain where its predecessor came down and broke the arm off and smashed the camera. But I'm not trying for full speed. Incidentally, I had the frame set up with 3 new motors on it before I broke the other one, So rather than transfer over the motors, I thought I'd start off with a fresh set, because I suspect one of the motors from the previous crash might have slowed down and caused the crash. It doesn't rotate as freely as the others, so a bit of testing with that gear before I recycle it. But this particular 5-inch has the flight control and 4-in-1 ESC from the crashed one. It's got a different VTX because the VTX was wrecked in the crash. The VTX was wrecked in the crack, so I replaced that. The GPS seems to be fine, so I've put that on board. It's not picking up that many satellites compared to what I expect, but that can be variable anyway. There's enough there to navigate with, so that's all that matters. What else is new? Oh yeah, and the beeper got wrecked too, so there's a new beeper on the back of it. So it was a pretty dull sort of day, and once again I've tweaked a little bit of colour correction to brighten it up. It comes up really well. So not looking forward to the day when part of this area is subdivided and I won't be able to fly here anymore, but that's life for you. Compared with what's happening in some countries, like draconian requirements for flying in China and the America not far behind them. It's a little bit sad what's happening worldwide with FPV, but I guess that's just the way things change. So that's pretty much over the spot where its predecessor crashed. So I'm slowing right down for a comfortable landing. So our desalination plant's straight ahead, where it was built after a massive drought where we almost ran out of water. So coming in very gently. And then reverting to the normal definitions, ready for the stats at the end of the flight. And here they are. So for a first flight of a new build, with the existing tune from the previous one, very happy.